Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast with your host, Marie Shadows. And on this very special episode of the Square Circle Podcast, I am only streaming on Substack. So if you're not signed up to my free wrestling newsletter, where you get my free podcast talking about worldwide wrestling industry problems and how to fix it, or just the industry in general, talk about wrestling shows, and basically talk about wrestling. This is Square Circle Podcast. Head over to marieshadows.substack.com to sign up for free. For this particular live stream, I just wanted to catch up with my community, and I wanted to talk about WWE related stuff. WWE released wrestlers and, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and a little bit of everything, and some other stuff that's going on behind the scenes. I haven't really did a podcast episode since maybe March. The latest from what I remember, the last thing I did was with my bestest co-host that we talk about MOW, and I feel like, I don't know when the MOW Fusion tapings are going to drop. They have not released a date yet. And I feel like I'm just missing wrestling content. I'm missing talking to Dose Evil and giving you guys MOW content. But that's the last thing that we did together. That's the last podcast that I did. I am completely burned out again. So I took the time to take a break, started to mini create stuff on Instagram. If you guys are not following my Instagram, it is IG at marieshadows.scp. SCP stands for Square Circle Podcast. And I take you on side quests, and I talk about wrestling, and I talk about, whatever else I want to do. But I take you on side quests and talk about wrestling. So I've been rebuilding there and basically doing this slowly to kind of feel like what I want as the comeback. But I guess this is the comeback. So on my IG, I gave you guys a little sneak preview about what I was going to say about TKO and WWE. I personally believe that TKO needs to take a backseat to WWE. Now, when I was thinking about this, right, because sooner or later, me being as passionate as I am about professional wrestling and the industry and who's in partnership with who, I've been very, very, very vocal about AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I really want them to separate because, as you see, in New Japan Pro Wrestling, they took the damn IWGP belt off of Yota Tsuji to give it to Callan Newman so he could get the accolade of being the youngest at the time. Well, at this time, because apparently Nakamura was the youngest to win the championship title back in the day. But to give it to Callan Newman, who is now the leader of the United Empire, and then to go to AEW to show it off. And then, we have Forbidden Door coming up. If you guys have not seen the pattern there, there is a pattern. That's why sometimes I want AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling to separate, because the business that they're doing is not good. Now, as I always say about that for AEW and New Japan to split up, I don't really talk about WWE and TKO. And I'll tell you why. And that's because at first I was cool with all right, cool, TKO, bought it, they're gonna have the money flowing in and whatnot, they're the ones that we own WWE. And then until they let Vince go, it kind of felt like slowly but surely it was really switching hands to them being really hands-on and whatnot. And then WrestleMania at Vegas kind of sealed this notion of Vegas is their headquarters. So that means that they're always going to have their fingers in whatever WWE does. I believe that if WWE would have stayed at New Orleans, Louisiana for WrestleMania this year, TKO would not have enough hands in that to control it the way that they controlled 2 days of WrestleMania over in Vegas. So I think it's time to really talk about it and sort of break it down to, a good amount of understanding. TKO treats WWE as if it's UFC and boxing, where UFC and boxing are specifically for their genres of having big fight feel matches that is every other month, I would say. But it's definitely not frequently because boxing and UFC are not running 52 weeks out of like the whole year. They're not running 52 weeks, including maybe some house shows and stuff like that. So it's like you cannot treat WWE as if they are a UFC and or boxing entity. But the safe bet, unfortunately, was to go back to Vegas because at the time when I, brought up my concern, former friends had to always, shoot down my concerns and sometimes miss the point because I wasn't trying to be like, you know, ignorant in money situations. Like my concerns weren't like money situations. My concern usually when I bring something up is to point to patterns. It's to point to, hey, why are we suddenly moving away from a place to go to Vegas? Because Vegas is obviously the safe haven. Vegas is a safety net. If something falls through, anywhere else in the United States, they go to Vegas because they know that people are going to pay for the tickets. They know that they basically know their audience in one state. And sometimes that's a bad thing because how long can that last before it runs out and then like it eventually falls, right? So, you know, I don't really focus too much on the money aspects of like certain states. So former friend was telling me that New Orleans was having money issues. That New Orleans couldn't like afford WWE for WrestleMania for 2 nights. But how does that make sense when we know that even though like okay, how can I say this? According to the internet and according to Twitter, whenever they get into battles about like who pays what, this pays that, and it's always like a back and forth argument. Um, if somebody wants a particular event at their state, usually there should be like money set aside for entertainment stuff. So they would pay for WWE to be there. And I would think, in turn, that the state will make their money back, if not most of it. So, how in the world would, how can I say this? Um, how in the world would New Orleans never make their money back if they would have stayed? That's why I think now, looking back in hindsight, that it probably was something else. It probably was something else in the negotiation that fell through, and I don't think it was 100% money. Because like it doesn't make any sense. If we know that when people book a venue, obviously they have to pay the venue, and then in turn they get the money back. The same way of like a venue reaching out to like your favorite artist and being like, hey, how much is it to book such and such artists? Because in turn they think that when the artist shows up, they're gonna make their money back. Even though they're like, hey, we'll pay you to use the space for like 2 hours, 3 hours for your set. And with the people that come in with the ticket sales and buying food, drinks, stuff like that, maybe if the establishment has their own type of merchandise, they'll get the money back, right? So like I don't know, man. Sometimes when people talk about money and like state affairs, even though we don't know 100% of it, we do know like a little tiny bit of it. And sometimes that could be like, well, 2 plus 2 must equal 4 kind of deal, kind of thinking. But getting back to the point of that, like sometimes former friends will want to shoot you down when you're trying to find a pattern when something doesn't make sense. And not everyone is going to think about money, and it doesn't. And sometimes your thought pattern and your investigation and your, thinking process doesn't stop at money. It shouldn't be like, oh yeah, money's the answer, guys. That's it. Stop asking questions. No, it should definitely be like, why are you moving from New Orleans back to Vegas? when we were there not too long ago, like, you want a different audience, man. You don't want just the same audience in Las Vegas. Sure, people could fly in from like all over the world and even, across the United States, but you do want a different atmosphere where people are not assholes, right? Because, like, I don't know, from what we've seen over the past, couple of days of fans being assholes to wrestlers and swarming wrestlers and whatnot, you barely hear that in like other states. But either way, um, Vegas is safe. Any other states are not really as safe as Vegas when it comes to like a TKO takeover. But that's what I felt for like WrestleMania, that like, in order for WrestleMania to be successful, I guess, in TKO's mind, because TKO does not understand wrestling. TKO does not understand that WWE is such a gigantic company that they don't need the amount of celebrities that they have. They don't need the amount of like, you know, let's like shoehorn these people in. They don't really need that. WWE has been doing this for like years and whatnot, and they've had ups and downs and whatever you want to call it. But the fact remains is that everyone uses their blueprint. Everyone in the industry uses the blueprint of WWE. So why is TKO coming in to mess up something that is good? you know, um, right here on Substack, somebody did a very good, like, a little analysis on Substack notes, where I basically had to repost it and say this is all true. And I said that what we saw over at WrestleMania was a friend of a friend of a friend. So you can complain about ticket prices, but what I really wanted to bring up, aside from ticket prices, right, is that the cash flow was already given to everybody that was there. So sometimes you might think that your ticket price money is going to the wrestlers and everybody involved and to like TKO and to the company, but you have to remember that maybe a small percentage might be going to them, but the friends of the friends of the friends already got paid. The money already got exchanged. You guys have to understand that this is why when you become a content creator, you understand outside forces a little bit better than like if you were not a content creator and just talking out your ass. But when you're a content creator, they say that getting brand deals are like the best thing to help you make money, so that way that money could be reinvested into whatever it is that you're doing, right? And I know that it might seem like I'm jumping a lot, but like these are different perspectives to help you understand what TKO is doing. So with all the advertisements, TKO, WWE, and maybe not the wrestlers, but they get paid in advertisement. That money goes into the company. The extra stuff is just, the surface level of stuff that we talk about. But just know that during WrestleMania, everybody already got paid. The money already switched hands 1,000 times over, maybe 1,000,000 times over. That's me exaggerating by me saying 1,000,000 times. But the money already got exchanged between the hands. So even if you complain about high ticket prices, they know that a certain type of audience is going to be able to pay for it. And if you're not with that certain type of audience, someone is going to like take out a second mortgage, someone is going to go into debt, and they don't care because they already got paid. They did not get paid from the ticket sales per se, but they got paid from the advertisers. Advertisers will spend a lot of more money than you guys actually realize. So while you guys, the softest of the softest wrestling fans, the most liberal of liberal wrestling fans, the most left-leaning wrestling fans, every time that you guys say, we got to eat the rich, we got to tax the rich, have you guys thought about, trying to change the system of how advertisement works? Because sometimes somebody makes their most money from advertisers that seem like they have a lot of money to spend. So it's not just a rich person. It's the advertisers that work, you know, like this with people. So yeah, I'm just wondering if people actually think about it. This is why we're always going to have the arguments that you see on Twitter, that you see on Reddit, that you may see on Instagram with like reels battling back and forth of the most surface level fucking takes, which I haven't seen, but being on Twitter for like 12 years, I know these stupid ass arguments. And people think only surface level. People don't think like a content creator because they're not a content creator and they're not doing that. Um, but that's how that goes. That TKO already got paid, WWE already got paid, the wrestlers already got paid, and now it's just the extra stuff that comes in. But they get paid by the advertisers more than like the ticket sales, because some of that ticket sale has to go to the venue itself. And while we're talking about like high ticket prices, it is on like Ticketmaster and like StubHub and like all these other places that like if you're buying digital, it should not cost you an arm and a leg for that at all. It really should not cost you an arm and a leg for any type of like digital ticket. Now, if you're going in person to where they sell you the actual ticket, maybe that should be a little bit higher because they gotta, print it out. They might give you an envelope. You're doing an actual in-person transaction. But if it's like, online and digital, no. But I just wanted to make people aware that, TKO is already like, oh, we got paid. We don't really have to worry too much. WWE already got paid. These advertisers will pay for everything. And you guys notice how, like, ESPN and whatnot was showing a lot of commercials and all the ads that you get. And, Michael Cole was trying to upsell everybody to get the Ultimate Edition. Because again, ESPN is like, hey, we'll give you guys X amount of money because we're in this handshake partner agreement, and we're going to play these ads, and we're going to try to get people to get the Ultimate Edition so that way they don't have to get ads. Because who really wants to see ads on like something that they love, right? Like, we're tired of seeing ads. YouTube does it. YouTube does this model anyway where like the advertisers are paying YouTube all this money to show their ads, but in order for you not to get ads, you have to like upgrade. Like, how does that make sense? See, all these companies are getting rich because advertisers are sharing their money, and in turn, the company is getting extra money on the dollar. So it's not necessarily like rich people trying to keep their money away from poor people. It's, you got to change your thinking about this and how advertisers are controlling the systems and controlling the things that we like. So all of this is together because we all love WWE. We all love like other things too and whatnot. So like, in order for WWE to like go back to the way it was, they really do have to tell TKO to take a step back and to let them do what WWE does best, which is giving us entertainment along with wrestling and stuff like that. Whether you agree with what WWE does or not, that's not even the point. The point is to try to make you a little bit more smarter when you're thinking about this and not just thinking about surface level fucking takes about like, oh my God, ticket prices are so high. We know they've been high ever since like 2020. Ever since like after COVID and the pandemic. But you guys still buy. If you guys didn't buy, then that will send a message because then that hurts the venue. Rather than trying to make stupid ass videos to be like, oh my God, guys, TKO, do you see that there's seats that are empty? You guys are up in the nosebleeds. The event hasn't even started yet. How do you know that like a family of 5 isn't going to come in a little bit later to take those 5 seats that you randomly just want to be like, oh my God, guys, look how many empty seats. Rather than virtue singling, you guys have to vote with your wallet. Do you guys know what happened when like Bud Light decided to do the one thing that they're not supposed to do and nobody bought Bud Light and no one talks about it ever again because their sales went down? Over on TikTok, there was a female leading the charge of Kellogg's, because Kellogg's are like, oh, if a family can't afford dinner, but they can go eat our cereal, but their cereal prices were going higher and higher and higher. And what did she do? She gathered up, a little mini. Uh, I don't want to say a little mini army, but she did the work, and she was really talking from the heart of like, yo, this is not cool for the CEO of Kellogg's to tell us, the moms who buy the cereal, and even guys who want to buy the cereal and eat the cereal, that they can have it for dinner if they can't afford, buying dinner. So her and everybody else decided to stop buying Kellogg's, decided to start making their own cereal at home, and also, decided to buy other brands. What happened? The Kellogg stock and the Kellogg profit went down. See, you have to do action if you want something to change. Getting on the internet, even though I'm doing that right now as a live stream, and telling people, oh, hey, look at these empty seats. TKO, how dare you have these high ticket prices? And yes, while the wrestlers were doing that too to advocate for it, it's a lot more deeper than just, hey, lower the ticket prices. Because if you really wanted to send a statement, you would have sent a statement, which brings me to my next thought about the WrestleMania weekend. The reason why WrestleMania will always be WrestleMania is because of how special it is. There is no denying that. But the moment that WWE decided to allow streamers and influencers and people who go all excited and they have those kind of people, that's where you guys won't ever have a leg to stand on if you truly want something to change within the industry. Because now they kind of been bought and paid for, which, I'm 50-50 on that, because, go make your money however you want to. Just don't be an idiot. Just don't be a slime ball. Just don't be a dick about it. Try to remain as humble as you can, but I get it. Money is money. I get that. Even though I don't think they got paid, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying in general, like, you basically got bought and paid for. And these people will not like try to help change, what's wrong, even though we have legit concerns, because they are influencers, and this is how they keep their status. This is how they end up being relevant. This is how they end up, getting the access. And sometimes people are afraid of losing that access, because what are they without that access? What are they if they're not trying to go to every WWE event to interview the wrestlers? This is why I like to become friends with the wrestlers first, to feel comfortable and have them feel comfortable, rather than me going up to them with my microphone and being like, tell me what you ate today. What did you order in the last restaurant? How did you get prepared? What water is your favorite brand? And I say all this to bring awareness, because that's what I do when I talk about the industry and I talk about things that don't make sense to me, but people do it because that's how they stay relevant. That's what they do. And even if like you find their content to be fake or whatever it is, just know that they won't advocate for you, and they won't advocate for trying to change the industry, because it's a lot more difficult to change something because of that unknown factor. You don't know what's going to happen, but there are a lot of great examples out there of people who have decided to change for the better, or try to initiate change for a certain fandom, and they find themselves on the outside, which is kind of like, stupid, that if you're not with the hive mind, right? If you're not with the group think, then you're an outcast. Like, bro, who the fuck are you to tell me like I can't think on my own and I can't connect these patterns, but yet then you're gonna go and spend $1,000 for floor seats, or $5,000 for floor seats, or 10K to go meet Cody Rhodes? What? I'm just saying that the influencers that WWE takes and allows, which, by the way, this isn't me trying to be bitter or hateful or anything like that. If that's the first thing you think about when you watch this VOD, that's on you. That's not on me. but I'm trying to open up a different type of perspective on this. But these influencers are always going to be mesmerized by WWE, the spectacle, showing you this, showing you that. And it has become a game of like a competition of like who could stay relevant, how much content can they put out, but it's not quality content. In my opinion, it's not really quality content. I think very like, I mean, you could just make a vlog. It'll be okay. Um, but those influencers are not going to try and help change the industry to where other people are, wanting something to change, wanting TKO to, not be so hands on. And definitely at WrestleMania, we saw that with all the amount of ads. We saw that with throwing Pat McAfee in there, which I have no problem with Pat McAfee. I really don't. I have no problem with Pat McAfee, Jelly Roll, and Logan Paul as performers whenever they show up for WWE. But I do have a problem with having I Show Speed in there and also Little Yachty. Like, no, you guys, you guys could go. You guys can go. But I understand why they end up getting those guys because they have a huge following on social media. However, how many of their followers are really being converted into wrestling fans? And are they going to be casual wrestling fans? Are they going to be dickhead wrestling fans? Because, you know, as a content creator, you need to be wary of what kind of audience you attract. So the kind of energy you give out into the camera and the stuff that you do is the audience that you attract. And, you can't control everything. I understand that. And you can't control who like watches you or follows you, but you could set a fucking standard to where like you don't have any idiots and trolls and just people that want to be all doom and gloom all day. So like what percentage of their audience is getting converted into wrestling fans that aren't going to be dickheads, that aren't going to try to gatekeep, that aren't going to try to kick out original people or original fans of the WWE product? And then they're gonna try to capitalize it on content and making stupid ass shit, um, like stupid ass shit as in trendy stuff. As right now in 2026, we have looks maxing, where if you're a good looking guy, you have to make sure that you're good looking everywhere. So who's not to say that one of these fucking idiots are gonna probably create like wrestling maxing or whatever? Like I don't know, but like sometimes a person's character is not a good idea to try to have the community be converted into wrestling fans, because it's just like monkey see monkey do, in a way of like, oh, this is what they do, okay, and then on the side probably still call it fake, you know probably still call it fake, probably still like initiate rage bait and whatnot because that's what they're used to and that's what they get away with on the internet and stuff like that. But to bring it back to, I don't know, whatever point I was trying to make, is that everybody, for the sake of this, even though I don't know, but we're just going to use the phrase that it did feel like bought and paid for. Um, But if you truly want to make a impact in anything that you want to do, you have to show action. And like I said, we have examples of like how that worked out. So if people did not go to WrestleMania, they would have known that it would have been a failure. Even if they got paid, they still would have been like, okay, we're not going to do this next time. So yeah, TKO needs to take a step back for WWE and let WWE do what it does, because man, WrestleMania night 2 was a little bit better than night 1. I don't know what the fuck they were doing with the Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton match. That felt like not much to it. It should have been way, way better. And I didn't like the fact that Pat McAfee was taken out early on in the match by Jelly Roll. That was a choice. Usually, when you plan a match, I would have liked more interaction between Pat McAfee and Jelly Roll anyway, and in relation to Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton. But I do feel like because of the amount of ads and then the cameo stuff, like with the Mandalorian and whatnot, and they want to capture people's emotions but tell you that you're bad for having emotions. But they want to capture people in like small little segments that could be cut out. So that way it could be shorts and you can get your dopamine like that. But with all the ads, I believe that cut down a lot of the runtime for these matches. That's why night one was just like an ad fest because everybody, I think in people's minds, they were like, night one is gonna be the night where we capture everybody's attention versus a night two where like you're technically not gonna like people are not gonna care about capturing the attention of like this ad, that ad, this ad because we all know that like day one of like big events are like, oh my god, this is amazing. So that's why they did it. And then it cut into all of the match time, and that's why some of the matches fell off. Like the women's match of Liv versus Stephanie, that match, I automatically felt like that was like a 5 minute match. Even though I was entertained by her little dance number, Liv's dance number for her song, like I was like in love with that. But the match itself was like 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes total. And I felt it once the ending came because I identified when the fucking ending was coming and I was like, oh, huh, okay. I don't like doing that. I don't like feeling that kind of feeling within matches where I can spot where the ending is gonna come in, and I'm just like, yo, I blinked and like I that's it, the match is done. I don't want that. Gunther versus Seth Rollins definitely brought me back into like WrestleMania feeling. I was like, thank God, because the rest of the time I think it was a combination of like the matches weren't really well produced and everything was rushed and then we had a lot of ads and there was a lot of waiting in between time. That's why like I feel night two was a little bit more better. Night two, CM Punk actually, give me a second here, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Um, but yeah, I believe that CM Punk actually made Roman Reigns work because that was a really good main event. That was a really, really good long main event. Night two definitely was better. No one expected Brock Lesnar to retire, and I hope that all of the fake virtual signaling women out there can like shut up about Brock Lesnar and the whole Janelle Grant thing, and make sure to get your facts right before you start speaking on it. Um, we can all agree that Janelle Grant is a gold digger, so don't try to defend her, but that's neither here nor there. But I hope that was a little bit of an eye opening when it comes to advertisers and corporations and what really happens. Because if you follow the pattern, and if you follow what streamers do when they're like, hey, this is a paid promotion, hey, I sponsor with this person, I sponsor with that person, they basically make most of their money from brand deals. That's what TKO does, that's what WWE does, that's what AEW does, but I don't think AEW gets in a lot more sponsors than WWE because AEW is not really friendly, it's not kid friendly, it's not family friendly. But corporations do end up getting advertisers. That's what pays for most of the bills, if not all sometimes. And then money generated from ticket sales may go over there and merch sales and stuff. That's also a part in it too as well. But yeah, it's not just the rich hoarding money. It's more than that. So let me know what you guys think for that first part. And then I guess we're going to be talking about the WWE releases. So I'm going to switch my camera here so we can go down the list. So give me a second. I guess that this will work. You guys can still see my hand here. I think I might, I don't know. Should I? I'm trying to. Oh, I guess this works like this, but this is mad weird. This is really weird. Okay, this works. I wish that I can. No, it does not work. Hold on. Um, I wish that I can zoom in. Okay. You know what? Technical difficulties. Okay, as long as you guys can see this, because again, I'm using my phone for this. This is interesting. Okay, we're gonna be talking about the WWE releases. So this is what the list looks like. This is a lot of people. What the fuck are we doing? I just wanted to throw that in there because I usually say that for New Japan Pro Wrestling when I'm like, what the fuck are we doing, guys? What are we doing? Um, so this Kyrie Sane, what are you doing? Kyrie Sane was having an excellent gimmick with Asuka. Okay? An excellent gimmick with Asuka. Where it was that anime feel. And if you're an anime fan, you know exactly what that gimmick was. So we don't know. I'm going to say a disclaimer here now that I don't know the reason for why they let them go. We can do budget cuts if you want to, but like I don't know the reason, and I'm not going to go and look for the reason. But you normally I should have started this with WWE releases are to be expected. However, some of this stuff on here doesn't make any sense. But when you look at what they're doing, because TKO has a hand in everything, um, TKO and WWE think that the future is within former football players former athletes that end up getting an injury or whatever sports that they were playing didn't work out, therefore they could come join wrestling. Now, not everybody can be a wrestler, which is totally okay and understandable, but not every college athlete should end up being a wrestler. You know what I mean? The more that they keep getting college kids into wrestling, the more that they don't understand the nature of wrestling. They treat it more like a pageant than storytelling art, or just people who have been in wrestling school for years and grinding on the indies and doing this. What they really want to do is get college students and put them in a caricature of being a superstar, a caricature of being an entertainer, rather than taking an established wrestler from the indies, which they have been doing. Okay, they have been doing that. But taking an established wrestler from the indies and making them into a star. Um, but yeah, let's go down this list. Kairi Sane is a very interesting, shocking one. Again, we don't know why they let her go, and I know that on Twitter they started the whole like, we want Kairi. Let's see how far that goes, because no one talks about R-Truth anymore and whatnot when he came back. But we'll see how far that goes. This one's a head scratcher because Kairi and Asuka was a tag team that was legit. We don't have any more legit tag teams in WWE. I was about to say in wrestling. In wrestling, we do have legit tag teams, but just in WWE, we really, really don't. Aleister Black and Selena. Um, these two were out of place ever since they came back and they got swapped for Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Because essentially they did the same gimmick as Karrion Kross and Scarlett. Going around to people, talking to them, and being like, I need you to notice something. I need you to realize that you have been leading around like a puppy and this other person is a puppet and this and that. Are you going to take orders from this person, that person? And it's like, I don't think this worked at all. Like, it couldn't find its footing with these two. It couldn't find its footing at all. Um, Selena being the very sexy girl going up to these guys and, trying to be all menacing and sexy and a heel character and a woman villain to, just to be, it's a little cringy at that point. I'm just saying. Just because I'm like, I know you're playing a character. I should be in love with this character, because it's a very powerful, sexy character, but it's not hitting. It's not meant for that. Um, the whole entire Wyatt Six of Uncle Howdy, Nikki Cross, Dexter, um, Rowan, Joe Gacy. Um, this is unfortunate, but then again, like, if you can't find a creative way to fit them in, that's why they most likely got cut. It wasn't like, we don't like them anymore. It was more like, how can we fit them in? The problem with today's wrestling, when it comes to WWE and probably like other promotions, we'll throw AEW in there just because I want to like just throw a stray, but this might ring true. Let me know in the comments below. But the problem is that in these big ass companies, they're not making character and story and kayfabe. Now, you can say that kayfabe died a long time ago and that the internet ruined kayfabe. That is true. However, tell me why JCW Lunacy is doing so well with a zombie gimmick. The bestest boys that I have ever seen as a tag team are zombies. And I love it. And they say kayfabe is dead. What the fuck is that? So your argument ends up dying when you're like, oh, kayfabe is dead. Wrestling is fake anyway. Like, oh my God. But people love the Uncle Howdy character. People love the Fiend character, and the Fiend and all of Bray Wyatt's iterations of this entity, this character, was so good back in the day before his untimely passing. So why can we not recreate that same thing? And they were doing that with um Solo's group with Tama and Loa and Hikuleo and JC Mateo and whatnot. You know, why can't we continue with that? Like, on a week to week basis, you do have to think about that segment to be a little bit more different in terms of creative strategy. Because now you have to tap into Undertaker days, Kane days, the Ministry of Darkness days, back in the Attitude Era. Hell, like if I was in the writer's room, I would definitely call up Vince to be like, yo, Vince, what the fuck can I do to get this story over? And I don't care if people don't like that I said that. That man was a fucking genius when it came to giving us memories of the Undertaker and Kane, and Undertaker doing Ministry of Darkness, and Undertaker siding with the McMahon family just because no, I'm sorry. That's wrong. I don't think, no, he never cited. Or maybe he did once. But you get the idea, right? Like that whole entire story arc of like the Attitude Era and like entities and dragging your soul down to hell and all this kind of shit, that was very entertaining and that kept people's interest. Um, for Uncle Howdy, Nikki Cross, Dexter Loomis, Rowan, and Joe Gacy, you have to really position them as like horror movie characters, thriller characters, in certain types of genres that people fucking love. I think that they would have benefited more if it came to cinematic ventures rather than trying to have wrestling matches. I did like the fact that Joe Gacy and I believe Dexter Loomis went over to AAA and was fighting the Psycho Clowns. That was fucking fantastic. Why did you have to let them go? If you cannot find a creative way for any of these wrestlers to thrive on Raw and SmackDown, send them to NXT, send them to AAA, send them to Pro Wrestling Noah. You guys have these partnerships, and all it is just exchanging money between hands. That's all it is. It's not like you're trying to negotiate a new contract with like Pro Wrestling Noah to be like, hey, we're gonna send you the Motor City Machine Guns for your. They should have like a tag team tournament the same way as like New Japan does, but like it's just an exchangement. If you can't find something for somebody, send them elsewhere. Let them just get the experience and then put it on WWE. Oh, hey, you could put it on WWE Club. You could do that too. I swear, man, TKO having their hand so deep within WWE, all they want to do is just make money from all the advertisers. They want to make money from all the fans, but they want to cut out wrestlers that could have did something in the other partnerships that WWE has. Like Aleister Black and Selena. Send them over to Pro Wrestling Noah. Pro Wrestling Noah can benefit from having something spooky, and those Japanese wrestling fans will fucking love it. They will love it. Sellout shows every single time. The report will go back to WWE, will go back to Triple H, will go back to what is it, Ari Emanuel, and be like, this is how beautiful your wrestlers are. This is what we did. This is how much we increased in our profits because of you guys. Thank you guys. But no, advertisers. Like, ah. Let's keep going because I have like a million fucking like ideas where you could do with these guys. Um, why the fuck is Santos Escobar released? Why? He was doing so good in AAA. Let him be in AAA. Let him be one of the main characters in AAA. What the fuck is this? Did he say that he didn't like tacos or something? Like, he's so good too. The Motor City Machine Guns they were always going to have an uphill battle, no matter what. As much as I love the Motor City Machine Guns, and maybe, maybe in my lifetime, back when Ring of Honor was here in the Hammerstein Ballroom, maybe I've seen them in action. That's like a really stretch of a maybe. I don't really know. I'm trying to access my archive in my brain about this. But um I always knew that Motor City Machine Guns was always gonna have an uphill battle no matter what. No shade against them. I can't think of the right word, but like, oh, no disrespect against them. I fucking love these guys. But I don't see them as like top level main event unless they have somebody that can push them to be a top level main event for running a tag team division. I just think it's because they did everything in their career. They made TNA wrestling, they made Ring of Honor, they made the Indies, they made themselves. And so if like okay, I just thought about this right now that like if we had the Motor City Machine Guns like versus the Usos in a very good long-term storytelling event where you know the OTC Roman Reigns will get into it will like interfere and shit like that, I think that the Motor City Machine Guns would have had a better spotlight if we would have taken a break from all of the Samoan and Tongan storytelling, which I don't mind. I love those guys. But if we would have taken a break and have Jimmy and Jay versus the Motor City Machine Guns in matches, in segments, in storytelling and whatnot, I think that it would have gave the Motor City Machine Guns a different light, a different spotlight, and they would have never got released. But you know, I'm not in the writers' room yet. But yeah, it's unfortunate because you could do stuff with the Motor City Machine Guns. You can, you know, I know the Motor City Machine Guns are getting up there in age, but the amount of knowledge that Alex Shelley has that he can bestow upon the NXT people, and even for Chris Sabin to be down there and like just bestow knowledge, that's fucking priceless and it's gold. Um, so we move down here. Apollo Crews, to me, Apollo Crews like lost his spark. But how cool of a tag team would it have been for like Apollo Crews and Obafemi if that ever happened? Um, Andre Chase, you know, it's always going to be Chase U forever. I really did enjoy his whole entire Chase U run, and I think that that sort of university held a special place within NXT, and I think that's what's needed. Um, as like a little segment in NXT, even though everything's all crazy and whatnot, but it teaches you how to navigate a crazy ass environment while also trying to navigate professional wrestling and graduate professional wrestling with like how to do promos, how to stand up for yourself, how to get over obstacles. That's why I love the Attitude Era and I just love wrestling in general because there were obstacles that were put in front of wrestlers day in and day out. And they showed you how to get over those obstacles. In today's climate, in current events, everybody is all in their feelings. Everybody is crying. People want to get violent with you if you say like, "Hey, I don't like red apples," and they want to throw a fucking punch at you, or they want to like grab a gun or something, or whatever the fuck, right? They want to like go to the extreme. Nobody knows how to regulate themselves. Well, back in the day for wrestling, if you watched it as like an art form and also as like a way to view life on how to react to certain things and how to um, make sure that a situation can end up being dealt with, you look to wrestling. Look, I know I'm weird, okay? That's just how I always viewed wrestling. That like it helped you with obstacles, it helped you with communication, it helped you with realizing that like you may not always get what you want. And then, you know, this is why I think Andre Chase and the whole like Chase U thing was very important because you're having a bunch of quote unquote college kids who want to be wrestlers, but the real life, didn't prepare them for the chaotic shit that happens in NXT. So they have to go through these obstacles to understand that, like, to always know that the parking lot of NXT is the worst place in the world, and to always be prepared. Backstage, something might fall on you. Backstage, somebody might attack you for whatever reason. So always be prepared, have your head on a swivel. And then you also have to figure out and observe that other wrestlers will get opportunities ahead of you, even if you are guaranteed a rematch. So yes, this is how I look at wrestling. This is how I look at how wrestling can help you in your daily life. Because we created wrestling. We created the spectacle. Wrestling is man-made. This isn't like amateur wrestling where you put on the gear and the headgear and you're going for a takedown and then you gotta tap the guy out and you win. No, this is basically a man-made entertainment spectacle that is both a sport and entertainment. And I'm here to tell you a story of how to get over an obstacle where nobody could give you an answer on how to get over it. So that's how I view professional wrestling. This is why I think this chase you was always needed. I never got the appeal of Zoe Stark, which I'm sorry. She is a fantastic wrestler. She really is. I'll give her points and respect for the wrestling aspect, but I never got the hype. I never got the character. The same thing with Alba Fire. Alba Fire is a great wrestler. When you come from the UK, when you come from like the other side of the world, they teach you to be a wrestler first, and they barely teach you how to get a character. You can't just come over to the United States and think that wrestling is going to take you very far. Sometimes it does. Sometimes you get lucky, but other than that, like, you got to learn how to get a character. Um she was getting a character when she was with Chelsea, but it just didn't like really stick. You know, this here, how do you get rid of a female Olympic gold medalist? Imagine if this was 2026 and we got introduced to Kurt Angle and TKO was like, nah, man, we gotta let you go. How the fuck are you gonna get rid of an American gold medalist like Tyra May Steele? This is the perfect time where we need more American athletes that will tell the world that it is okay to I don't know if you can hear the background noise, but if you do, sorry. But like I was saying, that we need a lot more Americans to tell the world that it is okay to love America, that it is okay to be patriotic, that it is okay that, everybody has flaws. Just pay attention to what you're doing and pick yourself up, and every single day try to be a little bit better than you were yesterday. That's the same thing with wrestling. But to get rid of a female Olympic gold medalist, why? In this day and age, you really need to tell most of the wrestling fans who are liberal and left leaning that America is fucking great because you get to say whatever the fuck you want and be violent towards people and sometimes get away with it. If that's not freedom, I don't know what is. But most of the time, those people need to be told that America is not bad. It really isn't. So this one here, this one kind of hurts because she was gonna go places. I really did enjoy watching her in LFG, and she has it. She just needed a little bit more years to be molded and whatnot. But again, she could have been the next female American hero, where it's like it's okay to love your country. She got a fucking gold medal, and you go and like release her. I believe the rest of these, like I remember Trill is on NXT. Malik Blade, I don't know. Chris Island, I don't know. Why the fuck would they ever come up with a name like Chris Island? The fuck is that? He's Chris on his own island. See, this is why you guys need me in the writer's room, because I'll come up with like some stupid ass shit like that and be like, it's Chris on his own island. Like, oh my God, welcome to the show. Oh my God, he could have had a talk show. He could have had a talk show. Um, I don't know. Can you guys see that? Chris on his own island. Like, oh my God. Um, anyway, Tyreek sounds familiar. Tyson, I have no idea. And Serena Linton, I don't know. Um, Now these guys might be a combination of like LFG and Evolve and maybe the NXT that like we don't see, but man, dude. Now this Luca Crucifino. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the split between Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. Of like who's the better one. Obviously Shawn Michaels because he has a whole entire career and he's now, NXT. Um and Marty Jannetty went down a spiraling unfortunate road. Um and we see here that Luca got reinvented into a DJ and his buddy D'Angelo, which I fucking love D'Angelo, is NXT champion. So who's the Marty and who's the see my brain was gonna be like who's the Marty, who's the Jannetty? That doesn't make any sense, brain. So who's the Marty and who's the Shawn Michaels, right? Um I do feel bad because Luca could have been a very good major player alongside D'Angelo. But again, when you give somebody a character that doesn't live up to the hype and the potential, and nobody reacts to it, it's not necessarily on the fault of the wrestler. It could just be bad management, bad ideas, and sometimes wrestlers don't speak up for themselves to be like, I don't think that's what my character would do. Um, I would like to see more wrestlers speak up, but I totally get it. It's a business. Sometimes you shouldn't. I mean, I no, you know what? I'm not even gonna say you shouldn't. Um, you gotta pick and choose when you want to speak up to be like, hey, this is not what my character would like do or involve or whatever it is. Um, but yeah, this is the list of wrestlers that got released. It is unfortunate. It is very head scratching because I came up with solutions where you could have put them. I came up with solutions. Um, it is what it is, unfortunately. It's TKO and maybe WWE doing this. I don't know who to blame. We are so comfortable with like blaming somebody or an entity that we do not take the time to realize like maybe there's outside forces. Maybe some of these wrestlers did not want to resign for whatever reason, so they ended up being released. We don't know. And I would like to say that you guys out there in the internet world on Twitter, stop giving the dirt sheets the power to do this. Stop giving the dirt sheets the power to just say, oh, this person got released, this person got released. Like, we got to leave the dirt sheets in the past, guys. We really, really do. Um, my nose is getting stuffy now. But yeah, this is the list. You guys in the comments, whether you're here watching me live or you're watching the VOD or you're listening to it on Spotify and wherever else you get your podcasts from, let me know which one surprised you the most. What do you think? Do you think that we could have put any of these guys in a different promotion because WWE again has the partnership with AAA and Noah and TNA and whatnot, like, let me know. Let me know your thoughts. Now I'm going to switch cameras. So yeah, we went over WWE releases, we went over the TKO stuff and WWE and WrestleMania. But what I want to mention next is that I remember I have a screenshot of N- um not NXT stuff, New Japan stuff. So apparently, Bushiroad is going to be borrowing money in order to pay for contracts for wrestlers. So now, naturally, I have questions because when I covered the whole drama of the United Empire fallout between TJP and Jeff Cobb, TJP was also saying that Bushiroad has a lot of the money. Bushiroad has money that they're not going to be giving anybody, but like Bushiroad has the money. And New Japan knows this. So how and why is Bushiroad taking out money and or a loan in order to pay for contracts to keep professional wrestlers? So who is lying, who's telling the truth, and what the fuck is happening? I don't know any other information other than like what the tweet said, the screenshot says. So this is just the pre of like what are we doing here? But what I will say is that it might be a little too late to take out a loan to keep wrestlers because Tony Khan just keeps on taking. And I bet you that maybe towards the end of the year, or yeah, towards the end of the year into next year, that Callum would also join AEW. And again, I think the United Empire will fall. Only because why would you want to go and make a 23-year-old the youngest IWGP champion that holds a very high um, championship title and not have him go through getting the never openweight championship title to make that division, really, really good and then move on to like tag team and then move on to like 6-man and then finally get to the main title. You give him the main title off the bat and then him going after any other title would technically, in kayfabe, be a step down from him being at the top of the mountain and the highest, like holding the highest championship title that New Japan has. So because he did that, that's his own ceiling on New Japan Pro Wrestling. And eventually Tony Khan would be like, I could pay you whatever you want. Come over to AEW. So yeah, Bushiroad taking out a loan to pay for um, contracts is a little too late. A little too late. Most of the top stars that should have stayed there for a couple more years to build up the younger talent are over at AEW. And even though there's like this dual contract and shit like that, it's not the same. They're an AEW wrestler coming back for sympathy from the fans to be like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to leave, but I had to leave because of money and finances and all this kind of shit. Like, I get it. People need money. Money makes the world go round. I totally get that. But don't do it in a very snake-like way and then come crawling back and being like, but I love you guys. You guys were the best thing ever. There are ways to make things work where you can still say that they are the best thing ever. But I thought that was interesting to share that freaking Bushiroad is now going to be taking out a loan to pay for wrestler contracts. I guess selling playing cards, meaning like well, Vanguard is very big, but like other cards, I don't know how do you call it? I mean, because we know that Yu-Gi-Oh is Konami, so it's like that kind of card. They have those cards. Oh, and also the Great Khan was trying to prop up Bushiroad as being the best shit ever. When I'm like, but they haven't been able to keep the people that are leaving. But yet then you want to give like Suji shit for saying that, hey, Bushiroad, we are human beings. We're not, collectible cards. Like, we put our body on the line here, and then here comes the Great Khan to, do interference and be like, no, Bushiroad is fucking great because they have collectible cards. They make more money than anything. If they did, why are they taking out a loan? I swear, man. People and priorities. People don't have like their priorities right at all. They really, really don't. Um, that's probably the only like New Japan stuff I want to talk about. Only because I have been wanting to talk about, New Japan and who we have, and if I do, most people are probably gonna find it offensive. And I say what I say, but we'll let this right out. We'll let our IWGP champion, we'll let it right out. We'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Now, I went over WWE extensively. AEW caught some strays for me, and New Japan, that tiny little thing. Um, I believe I covered everything that I wanted to cover. I do want to catch up with you guys. I cannot share my screen, so I cannot show you the new merchandise that I have made. Um, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to a very exclusive Square Circle podcast on Substack Live podcast episode with yours truly, Marie Shadows. And I will see you guys on the next episode. All right. So now I know like where to cut, because this stuff, like, I mean, I could leave it in for like extra content. I could do that, but yeah. I talked before about leaving Twitter. What else do I want to talk about? As I am rebuilding and restructuring things, um, I am, well, obviously nothing's set in stone. Everything is subject to change. It is professional wrestling after all, but I've been having like super fun creating little mini reels and content on the Square Circle podcast on Instagram. So marieshadows.scp. Where I take you on like mini walk adventures and say what's on my mind and stuff like that, and even watch JCW Lunacy and write it down and whatnot. So my content is probably going to pivot. It's still going to be wrestling, but like I might make a podcast about JCW Lunacy and like what we learned and whatnot. Um, because I haven't really been watching New Japan Pro Wrestling at all. Again, I don't have enough in my budget to get the subscription for every month. And then also my laptop, I'm using my phone for this live stream, but my laptop right now, the fan is sputtering, which is not a good thing. It's on life support at the moment. And making content is basically my whole life. It's my whole identity. It's how I end up finding clients to review their matches and do tape study with you guys and do a whole entire breakdown. So like, I have to figure out what kind of wrestling am I going to talk about and what interests me now. So with all that being said, I still have not gotten a subscription back for New Japan World. Well, to get New Japan World. But as much as I love New Japan Pro Wrestling, nothing has my interest right now in New Japan Pro Wrestling because of how everything is now. It just makes no sense now. They're following the Tony Khan formula, and Tanahashi is just being the best friend that everybody wants and not the boss that everybody needs in order for New Japan Pro Wrestling to survive. So I'll talk about New Japan Pro Wrestling here and there. I'll give my thoughts, but it won't be like so focus. I got really excited and happy during my like break of watching JCW Lunacy, reacting to JCW Lunacy when like it came out, and I was like, what the fuck is this? Because it is really that good. I want to focus my attention on other promotions that I don't really watch, just so I could like talk about it and give, I don't know, my thoughts on it, like Memphis Wrestling, because hopefully by October I can get enough funds through crowdfunding over on my Throne wish list for a scouting mission to go to Tennessee and check out the area and cover professional wrestling, and with the intent of eventually moving there for more creative opportunities that New York City does not have anymore. And just for a better life, and to give you guys extra different content from the professional wrestling scene over there. So over on my Throne wish list, I have that there. Now, if you were following me on Instagram, I made a video that I said I did a thing. And that thing was originally having a Give, Send, Go, which is also another type of crowdfunding to get me to Philadelphia so I can cover MOW for 2 TV tapings. That fell through because of my driver. So I was just like, you know what? Let's not really focus on that. Let's focus on, trying to get somewhere. Um, that will be a very good fit for creatives like myself and like Ravage, where I do professional wrestling and he does gaming and he also does music. So, like, to go have a fresh start. So my content is going to change like that. uh this is the first time that I'm talking about, like, I have a crowdfunding thing to help send me to Tennessee, and to look at Nashville and to look at Memphis, and for some reason I want to look at Chattanooga too, but I think it's Nashville and sorry, excuse me, Nashville and Memphis. Uh, and I know there's like a wrestling promotion down at Chattanooga too. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I want to cover professional wrestling. I want to sign another wrestling contract. I want to lend my knowledge to wrestling and the industry and to wrestlers. That's why I also created the tape study shop where wrestlers can purchase a match critique from me where I get to break down everything. And I have tape study series where they could go watch and look at my portfolio and stuff like that. Like, I really want to get clients. I know I'm jumping around a lot because, like, this is the first time that I'm talking about it on a live setting. The first time that I'm talking about it. And I just hope that I get the support. I guess as I talk about it more and more and more, it'll get more easier. But essentially, yeah, it's about me trying to help out wrestlers and help polish their wrestling matches and their wrestling game and whatnot. I cannot guarantee bookings, so don't think it's about that. But what I can do is break down the match, tell you what worked, what didn't work. The last person that I worked with was O'Shea Edwards, and I gave him a 17-minute video with notes, much like how I went over the WWE wrestlers release and whatnot, and I talked about each one of them and gave ideas for this and that. And it's how I did the Roman Reigns car promo breakdown that I was doing over at Instagram as well. So yeah, I also think what will help me if is I go live on Instagram as well and talk to whoever comes in and be like, "Hey, I want to go on a scouting mission to Tennessee to just have a different view on things and visit." I don't really travel outside of New York City. I barely travel. I don't. I would love to travel more. I would love to, but I barely get out. But again, the traveling isn't for like a vacation. It really isn't. It's more for scouting, business, networking, and talking to new people that can just elevate the creative side of what I do. And I have my writing degree and I have a publishing certificate. And obviously, I'm able I'm able to create things for fans. Like this one more match wrestling planner. Like, I'm able to create things for fans. So it's not like I'm not doing anything in order to achieve like new goals and new ideas and whatever. It's like I just need to be seen more. I need more support from the community in a way. But I am again rebuilding. It is kind of slow. I don't have a rhythm just yet, just because of outside things. But with your help and anything like that, from like the throne wish list to anything, that would be fantastic. Um, yeah. Um, Now my merchandise. There are going to be some designs on fourth wall. That's like the one that I'm going to be using for, the rest of my content creation journey, the rest of my life. Just because like I found that to be the best one. But some stuff is gonna get revamped. I made a new uh I made new merch. Unfortunately, like I said, I cannot show you guys only because I'm on my phone and on the app. There is no way to be like share my screen because I would have shared the pictures of the new merchandise. But it's something that I was thinking about because as you move away from toxic platforms, as you move away from like social media and you start to rebuild on other social media platforms, you get to sit in this silence that is very, very loud. And what it does is that it resets your brain to where you can end up um, thinking more creatively. And that's what I've been doing. I've been sitting in the silence. I've been thinking about like how can I make new merchandise? What can I do? So I came up with on March 3rd that um, you wake up a winner, right? Or you always wake up a winner. And I didn't know at the time like what the fuck that meant, but I was just like, yeah, sometimes you just gotta wake up as a winner. You gotta be very confident. You gotta be more confident than like delusional, and like set in reality and be grounded in reality. So I have the you wake up always as a winner. Didn't do anything with that. I posted constantly on Instagram from March all the way to now. And then as I was thinking about it, I was like, everything that I did within 7 years of creating the Square Circle podcast and all the episodes that I got, all the ups and downs, all the interviews, everything like that, including access, media press for MOW, backstage talent relations for like a little bit with MOW, and then going to WWE in 2018 and then 2019 started the Square Circle podcast. All this ups and downs, all the indie stuff that I did way before creating the Square Circle podcast, like all this kind of shit that I did that I fucking love. I love it to death. I don't know how to really, really explain that to people that are watching because some people are just super judgmental and they think that it's a phase. It's not a fucking phase. My fucking family thought it was a phase. No, it's not. It's not a fucking phase. It's me going after what I was put on this earth to do, and that's to be within the world of professional wrestling, talk about professional wrestling, and critique matches and break it down like no one else can. That was my fucking calling. Anyway, let me bring it back. Um, Now I got so fired up that I was like, what the fuck am I talking about? Other than like my passion for wrestling. Oh my god. Oh, I'm trying to look at my book, even though I don't have the notes. Oh my god. Can someone in the chat remind me what the fuck I was talking about? I got like so fired up that I was like, yeah, let's go 0 to 100. Um, I want the best for this industry that may not always end up looking the best, if that makes sense. But I really do want, well, actually, no, I can't say want. I really do need things to change. Um, I totally forgot where I was going with this in my passion for wrestling. Um, but yeah, it's not just something that I want. It's not just a vacation. Anybody can ask you for a vacation. Your favorite streamer can ask you for a vacation. It is the hard work that no one sees behind the scenes that makes everything worth it. Um, I have no idea why. Why does the brain do this? Why? Why does the brain do this? Um, I did mention that I want to sign a wrestling contract again. I did that. Um, so yeah. Oh, the merchandise. Okay, the new merch I came up with, and like me sitting in the silence and creating everything in the background and creating everything from scratch. So as you sit in the silence, you realize that everything that you have done, it goes through your whole entire mind. You realize that everything that you've done is a marathon and not a sprint. There we go. Everything that you have done for whatever it is that you are passionate about is a marathon and not a sprint. There are other people in the content creation world that may feel like they are just ahead of you, and that's just part of the game. And I feel like that too sometimes, and I feel like I'm lost in everything. And at one point during my rebuilding and during my like sitting in the silence, the thought of have I peaked in this wrestling game? Uh, have I peaked actually entered my mind, but thank God I never gave it a chance to sit there and blossom. Because sometimes you might need a break because you want to do quality content and not just like, oh, I have to do it just to stay relevant. Kind of way where it's like everything is done fast and quick. Um, so you sort of realize that you don't take any shortcuts. It's all a marathon for 7 years. Ups, downs, interviews, everything about the Square Circle podcast, arguing with idiots, losing friendships and talking about losing friendships and like the details and all that kind of stuff. Like everything is a marathon. Everything adds up. Nobody sees how hard you work behind the scenes and all the stuff they don't see. They see all of the perfect stuff. They see all of the 95% of good things that are on social media. They don't know anything about behind the scenes. But I try to give you a little bit of everything. But the merch is already out. It's on my fourth wall. I will be sending everybody an email about it, a Substack note, and a Substack group chat as well, and also even on Instagram, where it's basically that mindset. It's a marathon over a sprint where everything might be slower, everything might, work out, some stuff might not work out. You might get an obstacle here and there, but you have so much knowledge that you know how to deal with it. You have so much knowledge that you know how to deal with it. And that's why like I created the marathon, well, M over S, marathon over sprint collection, and it's already live, and if you go and purchase some of the merchandise, you do get a discount. Over on my Instagram, I did ask people, and I was hoping to get like some answers that um, you guys remember any discount codes that is said during like a live stream or said during a video or sent to you in an email. Like, do you guys remember those discount codes or like no? Or do you guys just want seamless, hassle-free discount codes that like are already applied? I would like to know. I'm doing research. I have that question as a poll over on my Instagram, but I don't even know if anybody has even like looked at it. Like I'm trying out new things. I'm trying to grow. I'm trying to get clients. I'm trying to do a lot of different things to meet the goals that I want. And by the way, whoever decides to book a um a match critique with me, um, that a part of that money goes towards the Tennessee Fund for me to go to Tennessee and scout it out as a business networking opportunity. A portion of that will go to the Tennessee Fund because I really want to go by October and see Tennessee, see Nashville, and see Memphis, and how I can help apply my writing skills, my social media stuff, live streaming stuff, and professional wrestling stuff to Tennessee because I really do feel like there is a lot more opportunity out there versus here in New York. So my phone wish list, my phone wish list has like everything on it. Um, Instagram has more info and this live stream, and I will send everybody emails. Until the next time, I do not know. If anybody has any questions that they want to, last minute questions, by all means, let me know. You could drop them into the chat. If not, I will see you guys on the next one. All right, thank you to the 4 people that was watching me today. Um, I really was hoping a lot more people too. This is why sometimes if I hype it up ahead of time, like it doesn't really work out for some reason. Like I don't know why that is, but that's just me observing and letting you guys know. But thank you to the 4 people that were live and listened to me talk about WWE and WWE wrestlers releases and WrestleMania and New Japan Pro Wrestling and everything else. I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you guys on the next one. Just stay tuned to all the socials if I'm gonna go live or anything like that. But I'm around. I'm around Instagram, Substack notes, Substack chat. And yeah, we're just rebuilding. That's all we're doing. We are rebuilding. All right, guys. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'll see you guys on the next one.